Good day. I, Ali Ejaz, and my team will be presenting on an organizational behavior area known as organizational misbehavior. Before we start, let's run through the core topics we will be covering today. Firstly, we will give an introduction to what organizational misbehavior or OMB is. Then we will cover up the major themes highlighted in the video clips selected and the impacts of property deviance before moving on to recommended how managers can manage employees, individual misbehavior, and how upper management should manage similar situations illustrated in the video. Finally, we will cover everything up with a quick conclusion. Alright, let's dive into what organizational misbehavior is. OMB is an action taken intentionally by organization members that violates organizational norms and societal norms. It comprised of three different types of OMB, type S, O, and D, which denotes the respective behavior done to benefit the self, organization, or to cause damage. Workplace deviance is also another dimension under OMP, which is the voluntary behavior that violates organizational norms, subsequently threatening the organization and or its members' well-being, and it varies along two dimensions, interpersonal and organizational deviance. As these behaviors are determinantal to the productivity and ultimately the bottom line of organizations, our presentation today aims to analyze and discuss one of the organizational misbehavior dimension based on a selected video clip and recommended strategies to better manage its related issues. Although the video clip touch on all four dimensions under interpersonal and organizational deviance, our presentation will zero in on the property deviance, a topic under organizational deviance highlighted in the video. Moving on, we will look into what property deviance is and what are the major themes depicted in the video. Property deviance is a type of organization deviance that covers behaviors between the individual and the organizations. It's a major deviant behavior involving harming, damaging, or acquiring an organization's tangible assets without authorizations and can be manifested in a number of ways or through the themes as seen through our video. The first major theme from the video under property deviance is the act of sabotage, followed by workplace theft, damaging company equipment, and overcharging services. Sabotage is an act to disrupt, subvert, or damage an organization's operations for personal purposes through damaging company property, creating negative publicity, or causing production delays. As presented in the video, an employee purposely damaged his phone cord, which is pursued to be attempt to request for a new brand and a new phone. This organizational misbehavior lies on type D. Theft and related behavior, such as stealing cash or property, giving away company goods or services, or misuse of employee financial privileges, is another manifestation of property deviance behavior. As seen in the video, an employee was stealing from organization through pocketing money allocated for firm's website maintenance. This misbehavior's type lies on S and D. Damaging company equipments is vandalism towards company property or assets. As shown in the video, an employee physically damaging the office computer out of frustration from using an old electronic device with slow processing speed to work. This organizational behavior lies on the type D behavior. Overcharging services is the act of recommending additional services that enable employees or employers to increase their profit and subsequently pocketing the difference either for personal or organizational benefit. As shown in the video, the healthcare personnel in the video overcharges his patient by running additional unnecessary tests on him to generate greater profit to offset the cost of purchasing new medical equipments. The employee misbehavior is detected to show an OMB type of O. That's all from my side. Now, my fellow partner are going to continue our further presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Ali. Now, let's find out the effects and consequences of each of the property deviance theme or behavior on organizations or organizational members. When employees engage in saboteur behavior, organizations are likely to have increased employee turnover rates, as staff who are victims and targets of sabotage committed by their other coworkers or are regular witnesses of saboteur behavior exhibited by their coworkers are highly likely to leave the organization, suffer from stress-induced problems, and have low morale, which would subsequently engender lower levels of employee productivity due to having their well-being sabotaged. Additionally, greater organizational costs from replacing the employees who quit is also another effect of employee sabotage. Next, property deviance in terms of rampant thievery, fraud, or embezzlement would cause organizations to suffer a significant level of economic losses, whereby it is reported that employee thefts in the US have resulted in financial losses between $5 and $10 billion annually, while the sum losses caused by organizational deviance total at approximately $40 billion. Also, image or brand-related repercussions would be brought about by any publicized scandals about organizational fraud or embezzlement, such as lower brand trust and brand likability, which would further increase the organization's economic losses and negatively impact its bottom line. Now, the deviant act of vandalizing company equipment would also affect the organizational output of a business firm, because these damages to a firm's property will reduce organizational productivity, as certain work cannot be performed until the damaged equipment is replaced, hence causing a delay in the completion of work tasks and lowering the organization's level of efficiency. There would also be an increase in unnecessary organizational costs to cover for the replacement cost of the damaged equipment. Overcharging services to customers also increases the risk of tarnishing the brand and reputation of an organization if the act is ever revealed to the public, which would then translate to a potential drop in revenue stemming from a fractured customer and public trust. Associated costs such as legal expenses from handling lawsuits filed against the organization and public relations expenses from employing independent parties to protect and rebuild the damaged brand image would also further drive up organizational costs. So, as learned from the previous slide, if the wrong kind of behavior is exhibited by employees, it can result in some nasty consequences for organizations. Thus, it is essential for middle management to understand and manage employees' individual behaviors to ensure that their behaviors match organizational needs and are helpful in creating a workplace that also fosters positive attitudes in other employees. Let's dive into what managers or supervisors should do to better manage individual employee behavior better. First of all, managers should consistently interact and communicate with their subordinates through in-person or virtual work meetings, regular lunches, corresponding with employees on the majority preferred communication platform, and structured memos to show that the department or organization values the employees and is devoted to keeping good contact with them, which would instill a sense of worthiness and importance in employees. Furthermore, frequent manager-subordinate interaction is reported to improve managers' and subordinates' relationship, which will lead to higher employee job satisfaction and stronger commitment to perform well, reducing their likelihood to participate in deviant or detrimental activities. These frequent meetings or communication exchange between managers and their subordinates will also help employees better understand the organization's mission, goals, and values, while keeping the team on the same page, which would then create and enhance team cohesion and harmony, and improve the alignment of employees' objectives with that of the organization through their full comprehension of the organization's direction, all of which would actually play a big hand in engendering a happier and more satisfied employee with less likelihood to become deviant. Secondly, when faced with a situation or change in situation that resulted in a deviant behavior, managers should strive to observe and more accurately understand an employee's reaction to a situation by soliciting the deviant employee's perspective to actually better grasp the rationale behind the deviant behavior. They should also note any specific behaviors they would like to address, including details such as when these behaviors were observed, the frequency of occurrence, and the people who were actually present during these occurrences. In doing so, managers will have sufficient information to help them gain an in-depth view of the issue before speaking to the employee. So, when speaking to the employee, managers must remember to be an active listener by paying close attention, being empathetic, keeping an open mind, and creating a safe space for the subordinate to share their thoughts and feelings in. Through this, managers will learn of the grievances and problems of employees, if any, that are causing them stress, which would actually reduce their probability of becoming deviant and increase the chances of stopping any deviant behavior, because employees are actually given the opportunity to release part of their frustration and they feel heard and acknowledged, and actually could have the deviant causing issue addressed and resolved by managers. Now, Vipul will cover strategy 3 and 4. Thank you.
Empowering employees. Managers should practice empowering subordinates by providing them with a certain level of autonomy in the decision-making process and their day-to-day tasks while assisting to ensure that decisions made are correct, along with offering support and opportunities for professional growth. Empowered employees will have greater work motivation and job satisfaction as they have control over how and when to complete their tasks, chances for development, and they feel valued by their superiors, which would directly reduce negative feelings towards work and lowering the chances of employee deviance. Moreover, their increase in commitment towards the team or department because of their higher autonomy would drive them towards constructive behaviors instead of deviant ones, as they hold a greater stake in driving the teams to success. As leaders who empower their subordinates by guiding, coaching, and support them are more likely to be liked and trusted. The positive and strong employee-manager relationship prevent employees from exhibiting deviant behavior due to their loyalty to their manager and leader. Regularly motivate employees. Managers should strive to understand the influences that affect employees' behavior by employing a departmental or team survey exercise to identify what motivates subordinates and how best to reward them. Within the survey, managers should include a motivator categories such as work-life balance, career development, recognition, and others which subordinates are required to rank in order of importance. Once survey results are collected, managers should meet with each subordinate individually to discuss more in depth about survey, as one-on-one meetings like this show subordinates that managers are attentive of their needs and give them an opportunity to share about their feelings. They can be a source of motivation that raise employee satisfaction and steer them away from deviant behavior. After each meeting is completed, managers should act upon the results by customizing an individualized motivation plan for each subordinate based on their personal needs and values. Through this, managers would be able to shape a motivated team with high levels of employee morale, commitment, and satisfaction, which helps lower the chances of employee workplace frustration that typically give rise to deviant behaviors. Moving on, let's shift the focus to what upper management should do to manage similar situations presented in the video. Sabotage. To manage sabotage, organizations are recommended to mandate the HR department to carry out job applicant screening through having candidates complete personality, integrity, or cognitive ability tests during the employment process. Through this, management would be able to make better employment decisions by using employee predictors such as character attributes to gauge the likelihood of each candidate exhibiting this deviant behavior, since lower levels of integrity, cognitive ability, and agreeableness are linked to employee workplace deviance. As a part of the screening process, organizations should also practice contacting candidates' former employers or running a background check on them to help anticipate any deviant behavior. This strategy can, however, come with significant financial costs, as having candidate complete multiple screening tests can be costly, especially if the number of applicants are great. Additionally, HR should also roll out a managing sabotage training program to assist middle management in handling the saboteur behavior with their department, whereby they will be able to educate on how to collect and use data regarding a sabotage and properly analyze satisfaction surveys, which provide immediate superiors with insight on job stresses that could be causing the employee's saboteur behavior. Via this, immediate superiors would be able to identify saboteurs, determine the cause of the deviant behavior, and learn of any dissatisfactory aspects of the organization before working with upper management to develop plans to adequately motivate or remunerate employees to stop the saboteur behavior. However, as the strategy plays a significant level of power in middle management, there is a risk of misuse of power by these immediate superiors. Workplace theft. As organizational members are involved in workplace theft, are least interested in job dismissal since they most likely already experience job dissatisfaction, dismissing them is not exactly an impactful punishment. Therefore, to manage workplace theft, organizations should implement an anti-theft policy that is publicization centric, whereby violators would not be only penalized through unpaid suspension or other forms of penalties, but their wrongdoing and associated penalty would also be publicized to other employers. Through this, employees will be kept informed of the severity of stealing, which would discourage other employees from committing the same crime while ensuring that transparency is also present in the penalty process. While implementing this anti-theft policy, adequate attention should also be given to internal investigation of thefts to prevent wrongful accusation from occurring. Organizations should also periodically evaluate the effectiveness of their security measures such as their surveillance programs or equipment put in place. Management should work closely with the legal team when proving the organization's security system to avoid accidentally breaching any privacy rights. A task force comprised of HR members or other relevant members from different levels of the organization should also be established as part of the investigation unit of the security measures to ensure that investigations are holistically and fairly carried out. One of the limitations to be considered for any evaluation and upgrading of a security system, especially if conducted by an independent vendor, is the high costs and associated expenses.
Thanks, Vipul, for talking on the 2 points of property deviance, that is sabotage and workplace theft. Next, I'll be talking about the remaining 2 parts of property deviance, starting with damage to company equipment. Organizations should develop a comprehensive company property and equipment policy that emphasizes that any company-provided equipment remains the organization's sole and exclusive property, establishes that equipment usage should only be for work-related activities, mandates the proper documentation of employee-assigned equipment, and set out specific instructions covering employees' immediate actions in situations of equipment damage, theft, or loss. HR should work closely with a legal team to ensure that any potential disciplinary action that could result from employee failure in safeguarding organization equipment stated in policy clauses. Through this, an organization would be able to avoid becoming legally implicated in equipment damage issues caused by employees. A potential risk associated with the strategy is organizations' inability to legally prove that the workplace vandalism was directly caused by employees' negligence or purposeful malice. Organizations are also suggested to mandate the provision of office training for new employees as part of the orientation exercise. This one-off training for each employee would assist in educating new staff on proper company equipment or property etiquette and keeping them informed of company policies on handling or managing company equipment. Through this, organizations would be able to show that they have done their due diligence in creating awareness among employees on issues related to mishandling company property and reduce the likelihood of employees damaging company equipment out of negligence or carelessness. Lastly, we'll talk about service overcharge. An integrity department within the organization should be established for the formulation of policies related to clean practices and integrity, the provision of mandatory code of integrity compliance training programs for all members of the organization, and the rolling out of requiring all employees to take the MACC's corruption-free pledge to highlight the organization's stance for the act of overcharging services. By establishing this purpose-driven department, the integrity mindset will be progressively instilled in employees as they begin understanding the importance of integrity, which would result in lower chances of employees overcharging customers for services and subsequently leading to an increase in customer trust and the strengthening of organization's public image. The limitation associated with this recommendation is that the cost of establishing a department is high. It was reported that employees tend to overcharge services without the knowledge of superiors as means to either pocket the profit difference or to reach the profit targets set by the organizations more quickly. Hence, to prevent employees from overcharging customers with the purpose of meeting organizational targets set, organizations are suggested to set realistic, reasonably achievable targets for employees and managers alike to create a corporate culture that is not overly target oriented. This will help reduce employee stress and anxiety regarding result delivery, which will simultaneously improve their cognitive skills at work, along with a decreased likelihood of overcharging, misrepresenting, and misleading customers for the benefit of the organization. But organizations should be mindful about implementing this strategy as the prioritization of targets and results could risk reducing employees' level of motivation and subsequently their level of productivity and work quality. So, in conclusion,
The four major themes highlighted in the video, consisting of sabotage, theft, damage to company equipment, and service overcharge, are all manifestations of property deviance, a type of organizational misbehavior. Employee sabotage behavior may cause organizations to have increased employee turnover rates, lower employee productivity, and greater organizational costs. Theft in the workplace may lead to organizations suffering a significant level of economic losses and thus tarnishing their image and brand if the scandal is publicized. When employees deliberately damage company equipment, they may cause a reduction in organizational productivity and an increase in unnecessary and avoidable organizational cost, while employees' unethical behavior of overcharging services will increase their organization's risk of having their reputation tarnished and incur significant legal expenses, driving organizational costs higher. Therefore, it is of critical importance for frontline managers to understand and manage employees' individual behaviors to reduce the occurrence of property deviance. They can do this by consistently interacting with employees, soliciting employees' perspective, and actively listening to employees' concerns, empowering employees, and regularly motivating employees. When faced with similar situations such as saboteur behavior shown in the video clip, upper management in organizations can mandate the screening of job applicants and provide managing sabotage training programs for managers. To manage workplace theft, organizations are supposed to implement an anti-theft policy that is publicization-centric and periodically evaluate the effectiveness of its security measures. It is also recommended for organizations to develop a comprehensive company property and equipment policy and provide mandatory office training for new employees to better manage the issue of employee purposely damaging the company equipment. Lastly, to manage the overcome the occurrence of service overcharge by employees, organizations should establish an integrity department and set realistic organizational targets. Thank you for listening.